I grew up in an area in the British Isles in the Lake District. It was a wonderful area for a child to grow up in because it was an area where there were lots of fossils. It had a lot of unusual plants. It was an area of limestone with a lot of unusual plants. And my father was a medical doctor, and I remember him impressing me very early on. He talked about how, well, every human was different, but I also could see that in all the species I was looking at, that there was terrific variation. So very early on, I was interested in why was there so much variation, what was it maintaining it? And this led into my interest in genetics, which then led into the interest of how did speciation occur.
I wanted to go into robotics primarily at middle school. So I was influenced by TV and action heroes and science fiction. And when I was in middle school, I saw this one show called The Bionic Woman. And I wanted to build a bionic woman. So in order to do that, I had to be a scientist, had to be an engineer. So that was my goal in life, was to build a bionic woman. And that was my original influence in terms of joining the scientific ranks.
So when I think back about why I decided to become a scientist, it's actually odd. When I was going through high school, it felt pretty easy to me. I did well in the classes, and it got to a point where I expected to do well. I expected to get 100% on this or this or that. And one day I got a science test back, and I got one wrong. I was furious. I was so angry. And then I realized I found something really challenging. And it was literally that test and that experience that told me, not only am I going to be a scientist, I'm going to be a geneticist.
Becoming a scientist is really hard. I'm going to be honest, it's really, really hard and extremely time consuming. Like, we've both been in school when we were in school, for a very, very long time, years. You go to undergrad, and then you go to grad school, and that's another 5, 6, for some people 7, 8 years on top of your undergraduate degree to get a PhD in a field. And it can be brutal sometimes, and you can sometimes think that you can't do it, but we got through it, and all of our peers have gotten through it, so it's doable. But it is hard.
I think the one thing that could have made me decide on doing another field was in undergrad, because college is hard. And undergrad education, coming from the system I came from in terms of education, it was a big transition. And a lot of the freshmen I started off with did not finish in the sciences. They did find other fields. And so it was designed at that time they were called weed out courses. There was an intention to try to weed out as many of the potential scientists as possible. And so that was in college.
I have never thought about quitting. I have thought about taking a very long vacation. But yes, I mean, I have discouraging events all the time, and that's the nature of science. I have discouraging moments once a week, if not once a day. And I see that as integral to the process of making scientific progress.
If you're not failing, you're not doing something challenging. And so if you go into work every day and everything's working swimmingly, and that happens again the next day and the next and the next and the next, then you're not at the cutting edge. You need to be at the cutting edge, and that means you're going to fail. And that's the most exciting place to be. And that's where you want to be.
I would say don't let anyone take away your passion and your power. So you're going to have blockades in life. I mean, that's just the way life is. But if it's something that you're interested in, if you were interested at the age of 12 and then 15, and then at the age of 20, someone said no, don't let that person influence you. You were right the first time, and just push through.
Oh, I would say just follow your interest, follow your passion, and that this may not always be easy, but so the path could be quite hard, but there will definitely be magic in it. So I would say just go with your passion.
Pick something that you're passionate about. Pick something that keeps you awake at night. Pick something that rumbles around in your head and doesn't ever really settle.
the thing is, you more think, I wish I had a life. My life would go on for longer than it will go on, because there are still so many questions to answer.